It is pretty well understood by most law-abiding people that when it comes to sex, no means no. I mean, it's 2017, right? No more, she was wearing a short skirt at the bus stop. No. But in North Carolina, it is hard to know what year it is when it comes to rape, because there is no such thing as no if at first you say yes, even if things get ugly, even if things get violent, even if you get hurt. Once the sex starts, there's literally no stopping it. Legally, anyway. Just ask Amy Guy. She was roughed up by her drunk, estranged husband and thought if she just agreed to the sex, it would all be over soon. Things wouldn't get worse, but they did. They got a whole lot worse. And even though she begged him to stop, he did not. By most standards, that is what you call an ugly rape, but not in North Carolina.
Since he was getting angry, I thought that it would be better to go ahead and agree to the sex, because I figured that was a safer thing for me to do. I began crying and I asked him to please stop.
Jonathan Guy was initially charged with rape, but that charge was lowered to a misdemeanor assault because a 1979 court ruling states that women cannot revoke their consent once the sex begins. So watch your back in North Carolina. And while you're at it, watch your front. Amy Guy was the person assaulted by her estranged husband. She's fighting to get North Carolina's rape consent law changed. She's joined by her attorney, Kristopher Hilscher, from Raleigh tonight. Thank you and welcome to the both of you. Amy, I had to reread this story because I thought I saw it wrong. It just defies sort of all logic across the country. Why is North Carolina the outlier here?
I can't say why. I don't understand why it's that way. It doesn't make any sense to me. I thought that all my life I've thought no meant no. So I never imagined that this would not be considered rape.
Can I ask you, and I don't want to, pry, and the hard part about covering a rape story is that the facts are critical. So I'm going to try to dance that delicate line. What happened after this attack? Where was your head? What were you thinking? And what did you do next?
I was, how could this happen? What could I have done differently so that it didn't happen? And then, what do I do now? And so, yeah, I pressed charges. So.
And I'm only assuming here, since everything got so rough, that you were physically injured by this rape. Well, I can't call it a rape, by this assault, because that's what it ultimately was by the courts.
Yes, the intercourse had been going on for approximately 30 to 45 minutes, and then he began, it became more violent, more forceful, and then he began slapping my breast, and throughout the entirety of it, he was calling me derogatory names. And then once he began slapping my breast, I started crying, and I asked him to please stop, and he wouldn't stop, and he laughed at me and said that he could make me cry. And then it continued on for about another hour.
Kristopher, it's not as though there hasn't been an effort in North Carolina to change this unbelievably archaic law, that once you say yes, you're done for no matter what happens afterwards. But that's what we do. That's why we have legislators. They take things to the Senate. They call them bills. There's been Senate Bill 553, and there's been Senate Bill 505 in 2015. And apparently they didn't make it out of committee, and those two bills were all about changing this. What happened?
We're not sure exactly what happened. We have been in contact with Jeff Jackson, who is one of the chief sponsors of those bills. He's standing with us in this movement, and I think, what we need to do from here is draw some more attention to the issue, and that's actually why we're here today.
So basically just politics as usual, didn't have the votes, couldn't get out of committee, maybe not popular enough, something like that, am I right?
As far as we know, yes. That's not really, I'm not on the forefront of that. That's more of Jeff's wheelhouse, but that is my understanding, yes.
And when you say Jeff, Senator Jeff Jackson, who introduced the latest bill, 553, here in 2017, you mentioned the movement. I'm curious, Kristopher, about the movement that you and Amy are, I'm assuming, now at the forefront. What is the movement? What can you, if your senator couldn't get a bunch of legislators to become, you know, less Cro-Magnon, shall we say, what can you do? What are you doing?
Well, we're trying to sort of make a grassroots, get the word out type of movement, and I think it's taking hold. We're also, I have some contacts in the House, so perhaps we can get a joint resolution between the House and the Senate. We plan on working on that. We are working on developing a more comprehensive plan, but that's the next step.
Are there other victims, Amy, since you've gone public? And by the way, you know, it goes without saying, kudos and congratulations to you. This is not easy. This is painful. It's awful. Ask anybody who is a survivor like you, and they will say it takes just extraordinary, I don't know, gut muscles to do this. Are there others who are joining your movement who have been in the same boat as you?
Yes, and thank you for saying that. There are other people who have, you know, told me that, you know, they appreciate what I'm doing because they never either reported their crime, you know, and it has happened to them, or you know, that didn't get this, you know, they didn't get the justice that they deserved. So
that justice you just mentioned, your ex, Jonathan Guy, ultimately was convicted of 2 counts of misdemeanor assault of a female. That's the actual wording, I believe. Misdemeanor assault of a female. 10 months? Is that it?
That's it. 300 days total.
Is he in now? Is he in jail now?
He is in jail, but he'll receive credit for the time that he was serving awaiting sentencing.
So how long, Kristopher? You know the way it works. You know, you got overcrowded jails. Not everybody serves full sentences. Unless they're in the federal system, it's a little closer to your full sentence. How long do you think he'll ultimately serve for what happened to Amy that night?
We're hopeful that he will serve the full term because he is yet to be transferred to the Department of Corrections. Right now, he's still with the county, and that's usually a good indicator that he will pull the full 10 months.
Amy, has he ever said sorry?
Yes, a couple of days after it happened, he did tell me that he was sorry, but since then he's vehemently denied that anything happened at all.
And refused to admit it in a court proceeding. We had a domestic violence protective order proceeding, and he did not want to admit to anything.
Well, I applaud you in your efforts, and I hope you stay in touch with us and let us know what's happening in North Carolina. It's appalling. It is appalling to learn that this is okay. It's appalling to hear your story. It's appalling to know that this is happening in this day and age. Stand by for a moment. I want to bring in Danny Savalos and also Areva Martin on this. Danny, people would wonder how on earth can you not just change a law when clearly things like this can happen? Someone can get drunk, someone can get rough, someone can get badly hurt, and they have no chance of stopping it by just saying the words, please stop.
This is a Supreme Court case holding in North Carolina from 1979. So really the only way for it to be undone is either another Supreme Court overturning it or the legislature doing something about it. But it's even stranger than that, Ashleigh. The Supreme Court held, and this is the North Carolina Supreme Court, that once consent is given for a single sex act, it cannot be withdrawn. But theoretically, if you can interrupt the sex act and make several distinct sex acts, then consent has to be re-given. We start getting into this vortex of nonsense. And what they're talking about is the female, the victim, having this burden to displace the male organ, and when he tries anew, then she can withdraw her consent, and only then. So it's nonsensical.
Areva, jump in on that, because the actual language is the same act of intercourse. And again, the details matter here. They matter down to the line. So if in the sex act that originally is consented to, there is a withdrawal and then a repenetration, is that a second sex act? Can that second sex act be considered a rape?
Arguably so, and then according to this Supreme Court decision, the woman has an opportunity then to withdraw consent for that second act. But what's so outrageous about this case, in particular the facts of Amy's case, she said it went on for an hour after she demanded that he stop. So for 1 full hour, 60 seconds, she was subjected to this most violent attack. We've seen every other state in the union declare this kind of conduct unacceptable, reprehensible, and criminal. So the fact that North Carolina still has this arcane law on its books is really insulting. It's offensive, and there's just no justification for those legislators to continue to hold fast to this assault on women, which is all that we can really call it.
It is astounding, truly astounding. And by the way, lest any of our viewers think that maybe this was all wound up in some pork bill, nope, no pork, not at all, just a bill. So there's that. All right, thank you to both of you, Danny and Areva, and thank you, Amy Guy and Kristopher Hilscher, for being with me, and thank you for what you're doing. We are going to keep in touch with you without question.
Thank you.
A terrifying crash capture